Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Indus members, thanks a lot for taking time and watching this second episode of the Indus podcast series that we are talking about when it comes to the transformation to the cloud. So today's topic is Lean Selective Data Transition. I know a lot of customers are still using ECC, and the Lean Selective Data Transition offers a smart midway between brownfield and greenfield transition. It's important to kind of take data, relevant data from your ECC system to your S4 system. And today, Matthias will actually talk to us about how this transition method allows you to do that. So with that, Matthias, can I ask you to introduce yourself and take it away, please?
Sure. Thank you, Mukesh. Thanks for handing over to me. My name is Matthias Stegmüller, and I'm the area product owner for the Lean Selective Data Transition solution, which is part of SAP Business Transformation Center that I would like to introduce to you guys today. But let's have a look first at the whole product of the SAP Business Transformation Center and our agent-led tool chain. Yeah, so there are several sessions related to SAP Business Transformation Center that you can see also on that slide. And SAP Business Transformation Center covers the guidance, with our transformation approach finder and transition guidance. We help with data scoping and data preparation, as well as the transformation execution, where today's session is actually fully about. So this is the block that we are covering in that session today, the Lean Selective Data Transition as one of the transition paths. But I will also come to this into detail a little later. And everything is ended up with data transition validation. So we're not only guiding through the transformation, not only executing transformation, but we also make sure that at the end that the result is correct, complete and consistent, right? By fully having data transition validation integrated in our tool chain. Good. So actually, maybe I'll start with that one. What do we want to solve actually? So customers' pain point is usually how to get to SAP S/4HANA in a safe, less cost intense, and fast way. So they're asking what are the tools, and the guidance, the path, how to get there, and what are the offerings. So the target, or what we are trying to help with, is to accelerate whole transition path with our toolings and also with our capabilities coming with SAP Business Transformation Center, with a standard content, predefined content to reduce the overall project time and to reduce the cost of a project and to ease the migration. We know that there are a lot of options out there, and there are a lot of documentation and sessions and notes and so on. But then there are it's quite a jungle, So even though if you've gone through all the documentation that is available out there, you still might find yourself in the situation: what is best for me, right? So what is the best in my particular situation, for my system, for my use case? And this actually would also require, again, consulting. So even if you know how to do it, if you know the path, the tools, and so on, still you would need to do how and what to apply for my particular use case. And this is the thing we want to solve. So with Business Transformation Center, the key topic. And today I'm showing in particular the selective data transition path. And actually, what we have in the Business Transformation Center is also the transformation approach finder that would guide you as a customer to the optimal way, based on your source system and based on your business requirements, what the best and optimal transition path would be. So in general, there are three. We differentiate between three different transition paths. There is the new implementation, With a new implementation, you start with a freshly installed SAP S/4HANA target system, and the data will be migrated via the S/4HANA migration cockpit that allows to migrate master data as well as open items. Yeah, but you cannot take over your historical data or your closed business processes, transactional data documents from the source ECC system. Yeah, because you really start in a brand new environment on a so-called greenfield, right? And you can only take then master data and open items using the migration cockpit. Then on the other hand side, on the lower hand side, you have the system conversion. Yeah, this is a upgrade-like transition. Yeah, using our well-known software update manager, some tooling, so-called the Brownfield, because we take the whole data from ECC and we transform the entire system to S4, including all repository, all data. Yeah, and with the selected data transition, it's kind of in the middle between the brownfield and the greenfield. Why is that? Because with selective data transition, we also work with we're taking the source system as a target system, as an empty shell copy, and of the source ECC system, where we are copying then the customizing and repository only, and where we apply a system conversion for this empty system that will then generate an empty S/4HANA shell. Yeah. So this is actually an empty S/4HANA shell based on your source system with all the custom code, with all repository, as well as customizing from the source. And then the data will be moved or migrated selectively from the source ECC system into the target, including historical data. But differentiation between the system conversion is that you do not have to migrate all the data, but you can decide to leave behind unused or no longer relevant divested company codes. And you can also apply time slice filter to what I will come in a second. Yeah, so it allows you to reuse processes that were already, and also custom implementations that were in place on the source in your target S/4HANA system, but only with a set of relevant data. Yeah, and it also allows to do transformations on the fly while migrating. Yeah, so there are also some transformation capabilities then available meanwhile that I will also share in the demo in a second. Yeah. And obviously, if you compare then the transition path, if customers would like to decide to go for the selected data transition, usually they do it because they do not want to take 20 or more than 20 years of data, some of the data which is no longer relevant to S4, but also they do not want to start on a greenfield because they also would like to use processes that have been established over the years in their ERP environment. This as an intro to the STT approach. Then the Business Transformation Center, I said it already in the beginning that we today focus on the Lean Selective Data Transition. But I really recommend to also have a look at the other sessions, like for instance, Transformation Approach Finder, in case you did not make your decision about your transformation path, what is the best for my source system. So here we're really looking into the source system and also guide you to the right transition path. And then our data digital blueprint, data scoping capabilities. And today I will show the data digital blueprint for the Lean Selective Data Transition, yeah, because this is fully included there. And also then obviously we'll do the demo of the selected data transition end to end, yeah, that you can see what's in there, yeah, for the selective data transition. And actually, what do we want to do? Yeah, we have an end-to-end guided process for data migration and transformation. I said it at the beginning, right? And with the in the demo today, I will show you also that this is not just the marketing, right? But this is really there. In fact, yeah. So we take we get access to the source system. We generate insights, profile the data. You're able to actually identify and select the relevant data, then decide what to take migrate this data, and in the end also have this integration to the data transition validation tool to also then validate and verify the result. Yeah, and the Business Transformation Center is orchestrating this whole journey end to end. Yeah, so we are taking you at the hand from the very first step until the data validation. Yeah, so this is we're covering this full end-to-end data migration lifecycle. Then this is yeah, the short intro to the digital blueprint. Yeah, and this is something I will also show in a second. Then in the tool itself, where I think it's much it's much better. But maybe here one short intro, and I think Mukesh also said it at the beginning, was the time slice feature that we have with the Lean SCT, and this is one of the examples I would like to show you, and this is why also some of the customers choose the Lean Selective Data Transition over Brownfield is because they go to RISE, yeah, to private cloud. And with a reduced system size, we can also reduce TCI, TCO, right? Because we can leave behind unnecessary data. And here, this is not an unusual example, yeah, that the customer has an ECC system running from 1998 and sometimes even older data in the systems, right? And they have companies divested, for instance, 10 years back. Other company codes are inactive. So we really can only take the active company codes that are relevant. Plus, we can also apply time slice because you want to use AI features and you don't want to have the AI running over divested company codes or over data that is more than 20 years old, yeah, because you would like to do proper reasoning based on actual relevant data. Therefore, you might decide to take only 3, 5, 10 years of data instead of the whole history, including also only the relevant company codes. And there comes obviously the HANA compression into play as well. Yeah, so we have examples from customers. I was recently in touch with, which just had a project go live. They had a 2.6 terabyte in the source, and now they have only 250 gig in the target, yeah, because they have reduced company codes, they have applied the time slice, and now they, yeah, I mean, they reduced 90% of the data, and this is, I think, you can check it by yourself. It has a huge impact on the costs for this customer going to RISE, yeah, because they have reduced their system size by 90% by reducing the data scope, but also with the HANA compression that anyway comes also with the system conversion, obviously, but obviously significant less data if we leave behind transactional data from 20 years ago of history, as well as company codes which are no longer relevant. And I also want to show that in a demo in a second, yeah, where we have a similar example for that one to make this more tangible also, yeah. And the good thing is Business Transformation Center is running in the cloud, but the data move is running directly between the ECC system and the S/4HANA target system. And here we're using RFC connections between the systems, so your data stays on the boxes, right? We are not moving any the relevant data into the cloud. So the Business Transformation Center and our cloud solution as part of SAP Cloud ALM is only, so to say, the orchestrator of the migration. You decide what data to take, you decide when to start a migration, you monitor the migration in the cloud, but you are not seeing any details related to the data. Yeah, we only see data records and so on. Yeah, so you do not need to worry about data privacy or anything on that term, because we only handle metadata there in the cloud, right? And the data move is from your system via classical RFC. And also the tooling that we use, you know already from, it's a DMIS tooling, which is also used for SLT. So the engine we are using to do the data transfer from table to table is a quite mature tool. Actually, what we put on top is the orchestrator, the Business Transformation Center, that is actually then triggering the migration. So also the content that comes with SAP Business Transformation Center, Lean Selective Data Transition is nothing that was new invented, yeah, but we utilized this content that was also applied in the SAP services. Yeah, so we are SAP services. I was also part of that team. We are running those projects since 2015, I think. Yeah, so I think more than 10 years already. We are migrating selectively ECC to S4 data, and we utilize also this content. Yeah, so this is nothing new, or it's not experimenting solution, but we have very mature and proven content there available as well already. Just in this month, another 2 go lives. Yeah, so we have also with Business Transformation Center and the Lean Selective Data Transition already several productive conversions done. There is also upcoming go live on this weekend. So quite heavy adoption, and also many productive customers on S4 now having migrated with the Business Transformation Center, Lean Selective Data Transition. Yeah, so just to put this into perspective. And what are the aggregates that we see, or the project phases? Yeah, usually we start with this digital blueprint where we decide what to migrate to S4. Then the data transformation model is more like the implementation view. So what to be or how to be migrated. And this actually is also fully guided. It comes with our standard content. So you don't need to worry that you have to spend 1 or 2 months to implement something, to configure something. I was also data migration consultant, and I know how this is usually a pain to set up the tooling. This comes out of the box, and I'm proud to present that in a second to you guys as well. And then based on implementation, you can create several test cycles, yeah, as many as you wish. Usually we suggest to do 4 test cycles, including a dry run, or 3 test cycles, including a dry run, and the 4th cycle then as a go live. But this is also kind of project dependent then, but this is kind of a best practice, and also what we see currently our partners that run, or even we have some customers running projects on them on their own, which is kind of, I think, a good guidance, a good practice to run it in total of 3 test cycles and 1 go live. Yeah. Good. And there is also further information that you can find there in our support portal, as well as blog posts. We have a lot of stuff available, videos. We have also recordings and sub-learning journey for that one. But I think much more exciting is now to look into the apps itself. Yeah. So what you can see here, this is SAP Cloud ALM. And the Business Transformation Center is actually part of SAP Cloud ALM, and you find all the apps in the Transformation tab. And just yesterday, I had a call with one of a partner and a customer together who wanted to start a project, and they are currently in a preparation phase, and they want to use Business Transformation Center. And one of the guys asked me that he didn't see any tiles, or he didn't even see the transformation tab, yeah, because he did not have the proper roles, yeah. So obviously, in order to see that in the Cloud ALM, you have to assign the Business Transformation Center relevant roles to your user. Once you did this, also these apps will appear, and you are able to utilize them, yeah. And this is what I said at the beginning. Get transformation guidance is a separate session that is also being then stored on this channel, as well as for data management. We have a separate session. And today's session, we are focusing on the selective data transition, so the execution of the migration from data from ECC to S4. And the full the process starts usually with getting access to the source system and the source system data. Yeah? And we do that in 2 ways. Yeah? We are utilizing an analysis file, so we're utilizing the readiness check for usage and data profiling. Yeah, you find everything. That's what I also said at the beginning. Yeah, you don't need to read through all the documentation whatsoever. Yeah, we also provide a proper guidance. Yeah, the readiness check here, you have to implement the readiness check node, then download the report and upload it here. Let me try this as an example. So I did that obviously before. I ran a readiness check sometime back for the system M8R, which is one of our internal testing systems that I will also now use for my story. So first thing that we do is we create a digital blueprint, which I say the digital blueprint is actually where we persist the decisions on what data to be migrated. And I utilize the readiness check file for usage and data profiling that I have just uploaded. And then I get initial overview about the system and also the status on transition readiness, whether I can already start with the migration or not. But I also get some hints, for instance, you put all company codes in scope, you did not apply an org slice, a company code slice, but also you did not apply a time slice. So I can now go through those recommendations. For instance, here we have then the different scoping apps, like the Select Company Codes app. And in the Select Company Codes app, I get an overview of the company codes in that particular system. And you also can quickly see the last activity and the data counts and so on. And we can quickly see that there are some diverse company codes that are no longer actively used. And actually, it seems that there is only one company with a recent activity. So based on my example, I would now put all company codes out of scope without any activity in the last 2 years. So let me quickly put them out of scope. But what I can also see, the biggest company code is actually the one that is still active. And this is also something we see in most of the customer systems as well. So if we go to this overview of the digital blueprint, we also get kind of an idea on the footprint reduction. That's what I said earlier, especially if you go to RISE private cloud, you want to reduce your data footprint in order to reduce costs, right? In that case, because the biggest company code is still in scope, we can only reduce by 7% with the company code size. Therefore, what this was also the request, or I think the main USP from the SCT solutioning is to have this time slice in order to really save the cost if you go to RISE. To apply a time slice. This is also the slide you have seen earlier, right? So if I go to edit here, I can also apply a time slice. I can see also how the data is distributed. You can see where we have the data from and the data distribution over the years. So I can now also choose a time slice here. So I cannot choose the last year, but I have to at least take 1.5 years into scope. So I can choose now anything like, I don't know. Let me choose 2008 as an example. Oh, 1 second. Actually, I wanted to show that one. Did not put it as active. So. And now you could also see how if you change, for instance, we're taking data from 2008, we still have 93% of the data in scope. Now, if I change to the fiscal year 2014, for instance, we already see, okay, almost more than half of the data is already no longer relevant, but I could even then take even further time slice date. So, for instance, I would now decide, for me, actually, the last 4 years is sufficient. So I could reduce the data scope by 80%. So let's take this as an example, which is quite good, obviously. And what you could see here is we now performed already the scoping of the company codes and the time slice. And I think it's also good, whenever I was in the past in such scoping workshops, there was sometimes long discussions about the scope lists of organizational units and so on. And what we want to do is with these apps, with generating the insight directly in the system to show, okay, what's actually going on. Also related to the transformation objects. And the migration object list, whatever. You remember these from potentially from workshops and so on. Long list with Excel and objects and discussions about whether an object should be in scope or out of scope. And I remember those workshops. sometimes we had a 3-4 days workshop where we're discussing the objects, where we checked, okay, is there actually, we see there is data. We're asking or talking with the customer, do we need to migrate the data? Yes or no, yeah? And we see there is data, does it need to be migrated, yeah? But we did not have the idea of the last activity, for instance. When was the last activity? So when we see, for instance, I can take one of the examples here. You see, for instance, inspection characteristics. Okay, this is master data, or maybe I have another good example for transactional data. That transactional data hasn't been used here. For instance, inquiries, SD inquiries haven't been used since 2012. Yeah, so we see there is data, but potentially it hasn't been used for more than 10 years. Yeah. So even if I look in the details, it says the relevant data count is 0, but we have some data. Why is the relevant data count 0 for that one? Is because we have records in a company code that is no longer relevant, yeah, because there was also the last activity in this company code and also for this object was in 2012, yeah. So I could easily see now or quickly see that the sales inquiries might no longer be relevant, yeah. So we could even say, okay, there's no need to migrate this object, yeah. So you can already get an idea on how the digital blueprint helps you to do this data scoping exercise, right? And obviously, this is now an easy example with five total data count of 5, relevant 0, yeah. But there are such topics also in customer systems, also what we have faced in the past, yeah. So I remember one of the workshops, yeah, was talking about real estate. Yeah, we saw real estate objects, and the customer was sitting in the room thinking, huh, are we using that? Yeah. And then we had to check then in the system saying, okay, actually there is some data, but it's very old data. Is this still relevant? The customer had to go and look, is it still relevant? In which company codes was it used? And we do this data profiling and support this data scoping exercise, I would say heavily with the digital blueprint. Yeah. And this is also an app that our customers, our also partners who heavily have adopted the product, really love also to use within customer workshops and also within discovery phases of such a, or when pitching projects, yeah, to customers, they really like to use the digital blueprint in order to do also the scoping, yeah, migration scoping, data and project scoping. Good. If I now go again back to the overview, digital blueprint overview, we can also get the idea of we're taking only 60% of the data potentially if we would go into the race like that. But what's still missing is the select scanned tables. Here we cannot do anything yet. Why? There was still a blocker. If you remember in the manage digital blueprints app, we could see that we need to assign a system scan. Yeah. So what is that? A system scan is actually then a more detailed, sophisticated analysis of your source system, because the usage and data profiling is more or less analyzing master and transactional data based on the standard content, yeah, what UDP is doing, right? But we also want to know whether there are custom add-ons, whether there are set tables, custom data, whatsoever that needs to be migrated, yeah. That's why we can also assign a system scan. And I would also like to do that or show it to you. So we go back to the transformation. And also there's, as I said earlier in the beginning, there's also a detailed session about the digital blueprint where you go into much more detail. So I'm only touching the surface here, but there will be also a more detailed session on the digital blueprint held by my colleague, Markus Arndt. So let me go to the system scan. Yeah, this is a second thing in the scoping that we require in order to analyze the system. So I can then generate a new system scan induced demo. I can then choose my source ECC system. That has to be connected to SAP Cloud LM. For that, you need a cloud connector. You need to implement some nodes. You need to assign some roles in order to be able to then connect your system. But this is also very nicely guided in our documentation. And once this is done, and you assigned a system, you can also start the scan. And in this system, the scan will probably run for 10 minutes. Yeah, that's why I will not wait for that one, but I will take any existing scan that is already activated or that was executed successfully. So I'm going back into my blueprint. And now I'm choosing one of the system scan. I think I can take simply that one from N8R. It actually worked. And now I have assigned a system scan, and you see the error here is gone. Yeah? So actually, we would be ready to confirm the blueprint and to go into the migration that way, right? But as I said, we have also this app, Select Scan Tables, where we can get an overview of custom add-ons as well as set tables. Yeah, so for instance, let me check on the set tables. That is, I think, a good, always good to see. Okay, there are many in that system, and I've chosen. And it's now also showing me, for instance, this these tables here, and I think there's also have I created a table at some point? Nice demo case. Let's see whether this is still there. Nice demo case. Yeah, that sounds good for my demo. Nice demo case. If I click on the edit, you can now say, hey, actually, there is data in this set table. In that case, only 2 records, but this table is no longer required. Yeah, so you can put it out of scope, and you do not migrate the set table. Yeah, same could be for a custom add-on that you no longer need, that you no longer use because it was replaced, or you on S4 you plan for something more sophisticated, newer version whatsoever. You could put everything out of scope. Yeah, when you also think about clean core and clean data, it's also giving you opportunities to leave behind such custom add-ons or set tables or whatsoever. Yeah. In that case, what else you can do? It's also offering some filters. Yeah, so we can also say, okay, we are filtering on the company code because we have a company code filter active. But you can also say, no, actually, I want to filter on the plant, but not on the company code. Or you say, hey, I don't want to filter on company code for this table. I need everything. Then you can also change the filtering here. Yeah, and also the same can be applied for the time slice. Yeah, so you can also then, if you have a set table with a time component, you can also apply a time slice filter on that one. Yeah. And you can take whatever tables you want to take in scope or out of scope. Good. And afterwards, yeah, if I have done my table selection, then I have an org and time slice active. I can then do my confirmation of the digital blueprint. Yeah. So I can also get now an overview of what I have selected and also which solution patterns I have active, so the time slice and the org slice, and also the time slice date. And now I can say, hey, I would like to confirm this blueprint. And as I said, this is now the point in time or the milestone where we have sorted out our data migration scoping. Yeah, so we are now decided on what to migrate. And now we're going to the next step, to the modeling, to the transformation model. So based on the digital blueprint, we take this digital blueprint as a source, and this is mandatory that you have this digital blueprint because we now model the content or adapt our standardized content based on your inputs of the digital blueprint, right? So I created TM transformation model for this session. I don't want to do a client mapping, so we stay from source to the target client. And this now takes some time, yeah, because we are pulling the standard content, but also we're taking the scoping data into account and then generating this model. We also do additional dictionary scan and more detailed scan, yeah, because in order to identify or also to assign mappings to set tables and so on, or filters there is some activity going on. Yeah, you see also we have a standard content here, as well as custom objects, custom content, as well as additional data. And I can make, maybe let me take out some example. Maybe I take the addresses. Yeah, here's address data, for instance. As an example, there's nothing you need to configure, right? We see here the object relations. Yeah, but as we're doing this table-based migration, a selective table-based migration, for instance, if we have delivery addresses in a SD order or in a purchase order, then we would only migrate the addresses related to that data, right? And also for master data, we only migrate the addresses for master data that we migrate, obviously, yeah. So you can see here, for instance, the address data is a predecessor of the FI document or the sales delivery document or inbound delivery, right? So first of all, the inbound deliveries will be selected, and based on the selected inbound deliveries, we select the addresses, yeah. And obviously, the change documents is a successor of the address data. That means we only select the change documents for the addresses that we migrate. So you can imagine, we only if you have an address in an inbound delivery, then we only migrate also the change documents that are relevant for the address that is linked to the inbound delivery. Yeah. So we are making sure to consistently migrate this, I would say, object chain properly. Yeah. So you can see here, those objects are identifying the relevant data addresses, and based on the address data, we get the change documents for the addresses, right? Obviously, if you look into the change document object, we would find much more usage, right? Because it's a cross-application based object. But main message here is you don't need to worry. Yeah, you don't need to configure all this stuff. It comes out of the box. We are doing that for you. Yeah, so and also we are delivering this as a standard product. Means you cannot freely define any filters, transformation rules, however you want to do it on the objects, even though our underlying engine can do that, right? But we must make sure that the data arrives in the target system in a consistent, complete way, and therefore we cannot allow flexible filtering, right? And flexible mapping and so on. So everything that we provide this as a solution pattern that we as SAP can say, can offer to you as a consistent way of doing the data migrations. Yeah? So that's why we have there a limited set of changing capabilities. Yeah, so this is not, but what you can still do is, what you can still see here is for custom transformation objects where you have the chance to take them in and out as well. You see also here the filters. Yeah, so if we go to the company code filter of fiscal year, you can also see the year, the time slice. Yeah, at the beginning in the blueprint we have chosen 2022 as a time slice, and we have only chosen one company code, right? I think it was the company code 2000. Yeah. So you can also see technically all the decisions that we've done in the blueprint are taking over to our transformation model. Yeah, and this is now the basis for our migration and for the cycle. Yeah, so we will migrate only company code 2000, and we migrate only from year 2022, and we apply all the filters and the mappings and everything what we need to the objects, to our standard objects, but also to custom objects, yeah, to set tables and so on, as I said, right? And this is important now, yeah, and you see how many objects there are there. In that case, in that system, it's just the SAP internal test system, 3,870 objects that could include n tables, right? So in the end, maybe we have 7 to 10,000 tables in scope for the migration, and we selectively migrate them, and we take care of the sequence on the entire orchestration, yeah. And that's it, actually. You could now create transformation model version, which is a frozen copy of your transformation model. But we require it, yeah, because in the runtime, because this is Transformation model is still design time. We decide what will be migrated, which objects, with filtering criteria or mapping criteria and so on. And now we go from design time to execution time. That's why I need a frozen version. Okay, maybe, oh, let me check. I cannot yet create a transformation model because transformation model version, because I think maybe the transformation model still running some preparation scan. Okay, there's still a progress, the scan in progress. Okay, that's why it's okay, it's still running. So I need to wait until this is finished. So I cannot yet, let me check. Then I will utilize for the transformation model version creation another model. It's not a problem. So let me maybe take this one. So I now choose another transformation model that I used in a recent session. Just come in. Okay, maybe there is, okay, this is unfortunate now that I cannot create a transformation model version that is usually working straightforward. But after I have created transformation model version, the next step is to execute a transformation cycle. And for that one, I go to the Manage Cycles app. And in the Manage Cycles app, I have to choose the transformation model version that is actually holding the execution data, right? So all the objects and the tables with the filters, with the mappings, transformation pools that are part of it. Yeah. So we are now cycled in this. We are now going from the design time to the actual execution runtime, right? So we are now in the Managed Cycle app is the app that is actually carrying or performing the migration. Now you can choose a retention date when the logs will be deleted. This is just to save time. I can now choose a transformation model and a model version. This is something I created before. So, but I think this has the same scope as in my demo. And I need to decide on a source and a target system. For us, this I think was M8R. The target is T8R, yeah. So M8R is the ECC system and T8R is actually a S4HANA system. And with that, I can now create my cycle. And now the data from the transformation model and from the transformation model version actually is being pulled into the cycle, yeah. And that way we know which transformation objects are in scope, which filters should be applied, and so on. Yeah, because now this cycle is actually, if you remember the slide that I showed at the beginning, the cycle is then actually doing the connection to the source system and to the target system, and is generating the runtime objects and executing the cycle phases. And cycle, I also prepared this one. Yeah, it was one of our test cycles because it will run sometimes, so I cannot do it in a live demo. But you can see it, and this was another system. We can also see that it took over the org slice and time slice from the transformation model version, obviously. And then we have this cycle pre-validation where we check that all the systems are fine. Yeah, system configuration, connectivities are all nodes installed. Is the target system a S4HANA empty shell, for instance? Are we doing the technical requirements check before we go into the migration, obviously? So this is happening in the transformation preparation and transformation pre-validation. And then we have here also still in uptime the cycle preparation. Yeah, so the cycle preparation, and this is usually it's running for 2 hours. because here we are generating the objects in the source system to perform this data selection, yeah, based on the objects that we have in scope. And it's also generating objects in the target system that we would require then for the migration, yeah. And as you see, this is the system uptime phase. And then during the downtime of the system, we actually perform the data migration. And in this system, yeah, this was 5 hours, 20 minutes to migrate this ECC system to S4. You see how many objects we have migrated. And I can also maybe quickly look here into the details that you get an idea on how this looks like and how you can also monitor the status of the migration. Yeah. And we had an address before. Let me maybe take the address as an example. There you see then the details of the migration. You can see the part which is relevant for also you see there's a transformation rule also for the addresses. Yeah, so we do technically a renumbering. And you can also see the sub-transformation objects. Yeah, you can see there are 121 sub-objects. Yeah, and as you can see, it's quite the whole data migration topic is quite a complex one if you do a table-based selective data migration. You see this dependent sub-transformation objects and the overall status. Yeah, so you see the run status and of the objects and so on. Yeah, here you can also see 126 objects that were done and migrated then and in the cycle. Yeah, just that you get a feeling on how this looks like. Yeah, so we are then pulling and everything that you can see here is actually derived from what we decided at the very beginning in the digital blueprint. Yeah, so here you would also find the set tables you have scoped at the beginning, or you would not find the set tables that you have descoped in the digital blueprint, right? So, and this is what I said at the beginning as quite straightforward. And what we then do is a post-process cycle, yeah, a cycle post-processing. And if we go into the details, what we are doing here, we are utilizing the same XPRAs and XClass and so on that are also being used in the system conversion. Yeah, so our colleagues from Software Update Manager, they're running these post-processing items over all the data in a brownfield migration. And we are running them obviously only for the selected data because this stuff is being executed on the target system to actually move the data from ECC structures into S4 structures where applicable. So when there were structural database changes from ECC to S4, this is happening at this point in time. Yeah, so here you have also here I think MMIR migration. Yeah, so where MATOC will be filled based on MSAG MKPF for the material documents, for instance. And after the post-process cycles, the SFIN migration has to be performed also still in the downtime in order to also then bring the FI structures from the former tables, BSAG, BKPF, and so on into ACDoc-A and this system, the target system. Yeah, so this is also then happening there. And here also we have execution summary where you then also can compare the runtimes between the cycles. And what is worth saying here is when you do such a migration, it's a little bit different to API based. Yeah, that's why also, I mean, if you're doing first time a table-based migration, you really need to make sure also to configure the system in a way that it's optimal for the data load. Yeah, and we have a lot of documentation here. We also have guidance. We are also providing guidance documents. We are working currently on performance agents that also detect issues in the system setup or in the parameterization of the system, where we would like to provide the guidance. At the moment, we are generating these the recommendation documents on system setup manually. Yeah? So if you are eager to run a project and you need guidance on how to set up these parameters, as long as our agent is not yet shipped, please also feel free to reach out to me and the team, and we will help you to give you some guidance there, yeah. Because it's very crucial to set up your system in the right way, yeah. What we see is with some of customers partners, they're starting with 5 background jobs, yeah. But if we want to really to migrate 1 terabyte, 2 terabytes of data from ECC to S4, then it will take a lot of time if you do not do a temporary change of parameters, of system parameters, but also potentially equipping or uplifting hardware from the source target system, yeah, so that data load can be accelerated, yeah. So we have, and this has a huge impact, yeah. So we had one of the customers and a new partner first time they run a SCT project, and they run the first cycle. They were frustrated because it was running 60 hours, yeah. Then obviously they open a ticket complaining about long runtime. We have checked it, and usually, they used too many too less jobs. They had no proper system parameter setup for technical table-based migration, yeah. And then we helped them with some documentation, with some hints, and then they went. The migration went down in the end. I think they had to go live with 8 hours runtime, yeah, for 2.6 gigabyte. Which was quite a good time, I think. So we went down from 60 hours to 8 hours or whatsoever for that particular customer in that particular constellation. Obviously, this is not a benchmark. Also, it always depends from your source system and DB, but also it depends obviously on your hardware capacities. Yeah? So this and network bandwidth and so on. There are so many parameters that plays a role in the duration. But I also wanted to highlight that one, that you really need to make sure to have some basis guys monitoring if the table space is full in the source system. Yeah, someone has to monitor it to help overcoming such issues, right? And that's why I just wanted to take 1 or 2 minutes, yeah, to bring your attention sensitivity to that topic here as well before running a migration, to make sure that only during this downtime phase of the migration, temporarily the system parameters need to be adapted to tune the data transfer. Yeah? Good, and then I think that's it already. You could imagine this entire flow that I just showed. I think we showed the entire flow now, how we get the access to the system, how we make the changes, the scope decisions, and then how this is technically being transferred into this transformation model. And from the transformation model, a cycle was then created. And we also did, and obviously I did not push the execute button, but we saw a cycle from yesterday, and you can see how fast you can actually migrate and how fast you can set up a data migration. Yeah, so this is, I think, the key topic here. Yeah, there is a zero cost of implementation, I would almost call it, right? And this product comes with SAP Cloud ALM, so it's included in SAP Cloud service subscriptions and so on, and your usual support agreements. Yeah, and it's really what I want to say, a real accelerator, in my opinion, to ease the transition, ease the migration, as well as reduce costs. Yeah, by also utilizing then ongoing TCO and so on for. If you move to RISE and private cloud, to also have the opportunity to reduce the data footprint and so on. And these are the key highlights, I would say, from our selective data transition scenario. And as I said, we have quite at the moment a high adoption of our product and tooling. Yeah? So we have many customer go lives. We have many running projects that our team is currently also supporting, involved. Yeah, with partners. So we have also partner engagements going on, and it's quite a momentum. So I hope that I could, in case you didn't know it, yeah, I hope I could motivate you also to check out SAP Cloud AI and our Business Transformation Center, and especially also the Lean Selective Data Transition scenario as one of the I would say, it's one of the attractive paths to S4, right? With taking part of your data, but only the relevant one, being able to also do some transformation on the fly, but without having a month of project preparation, but which allows a quick start and also which do not require too many. I think I would say you don't need an army of consultants for that one, right? It's just so it. I clicked it through in 15 minutes, which is, I think, considering other products that I have worked in the past, that's quite a comfortable one, I would say, yeah. So
Yes, maybe we have one or two
yeah,
questions before we close the call. Mukesh, would you like to start?
Sure. So thanks a lot for taking us through the content. Uh, correct my understanding here. So this tool that you talk about, or this process is accessed through Cloud ALM as part of the Cloud ALM subscription. Is that right?
yes.
And
And the
since
enterprise support, Mukesh, and it is also part of every cloud subscription
contract.
license.
Okay. And there is no additional cost that the customers have to pay for it, right? This is included as part of their support agreement itself.
Yeah. Exactly.
Also, you mentioned that there are certain profiles that need to be added to the Cloud ALM user in order for the transformation tab to show up. So if you can
Yeah.
share the profile details, that will be great as well. So I will add that to the accompanying blog that we will write
Yeah.
as part of that. Or when I share the video, I can also share the profiles that they need to request. You also shared examples. One last question that I would like to ask is, based on your 400 plus projects that you've already done as part of this, using this process. So where do you see customers making the most mistakes, and how do you avoid that?
Yeah. I think the most mistake, yeah, very good question, yeah. Because this is also where we are trying to add then the guidance, right, at the moment. Also with new capabilities with the agents that we are currently setting up on Calm as well. I think it's the actual migration execution, yeah. So in my demo, there was a hiccup with the transformation model version creation, which is usually not a problem, yeah. But usually customers have issues with the cycle execution and the runtimes, yeah. That's why I also mentioned it, that it requires a dedicated or a specialized setup of the source and target systems. Yeah, so maybe also hardware needs to be changed temporarily for the migration to speed up the migration. And many customers who used to maybe posting-based approaches using Migration Cockpit, using LSMW, they are not, yeah, they are not used or they are not experienced too much in a table-based migration. Yeah, so they don't know the struggle that could happen. Yeah, so they started the migration cycle with five background jobs instead of 50. Yeah, or even more. Yeah, so this is then taking long runtime. And also, if you did not put the right system parameters, one of the system parameters could be DB logs, for instance, database logs. If you do table-based migration, you don't want to do the logging. Yeah, so you should switch off the creation of DB logs during the migration. Yeah, because this is really filling up and then resulting into issues. Yeah? So we have most of the topic we have related to the system setup and also performance. And if customers do not know the procedure, it's usual that the first cycle is a little bit, I would say, challenging. Yeah, because in the first cycle, the first test, executing it the first time, we will see where we struggle. Yeah, for instance, if there is, and usually it's a lot about the RAM also, about memory. Yeah, so we don't have enough memory. We realize that we get jobs being cancelled, yeah? And then many customers, partner, they open tickets to us. Hey, look, we have cancellations and job cancellations in our migration. And then usually we look into and we see already, oh, we cannot even log onto the source system because it's overloaded. Yeah, so we are asking them, yeah, okay, guys, please ask your system admins, yeah, to For instance, increased displays, increased memory, and so on. Yeah, so these are the usual topics. Yeah, but even though, and I know that from my past, yeah, so even as I said, we're doing these projects since 2015. Usually, the first cycle is always there to get all these learnings. Yeah. And as I said, from one of the examples where we had the first cycles running 60 hours and go live was then, I think, 8 hours runtime. There is a high learning curve. Yeah? So even if the first cycle is bumpy, you have to really take the learnings and apply it for the next cycle, right? And also sometimes it's not tool related, but also process related. Yeah. So we had issues, our customers having issues then with or what I recently also had, usual S4 topics, yeah, application or S4 simplification item topics. And then you see an issue after the first cycle, yeah, obviously you need to adapt the cutover plan, you need to fix it, or there's sometimes also data inconsistency is a source. Yeah, so if you figure that out in the first test cycle, you should fix that in the productive system to avoid it for the second test cycle, or you fix it before the migration, but then you have to make sure it's in the cutover plan and so on, so you plan it in. And you make sure that it's being taken care of in the migration process.
Super. Super. So one other question that typically a lot of customers ask when we do this selective transition, right? So almost every country has laws that mandates that the customers need to have data for a particular period of time, let's say 6 years or 8 years or 10 years, which they should be able to produce as and when required. So when we do this cutover selective data transition, what is the best practice that you have seen for customers who to kind of maintain all the data as well, the old data due to statutory and legal requirement, while at the same time not taking all of that data into the new system. So how do you balance that need for having the old data and accessing the old data vis-a-vis doing the migration?
Yeah. Yeah. Usually, what is the easiest way? Obviously, there are many products out there or solutions how you can store the source data and how you can make it accessible yeah, if you just check for SAP data retention or options and whatsoever, you find a lot. Yeah, so there are a lot of options out there. I think the easiest way is to keep a copy of your source ECC system somewhere on your servers. Yeah, so in case someone, auditor or anyone would like to see data from 10 years back, that you can still access it, right? So you should keep. I mean, this is the easiest way, I would say, where also customers who do not want to invest or who not who don't see a real use case or benefits and having a regular access to the data, they can just store a copy of the old system and keep it, and then start it up in case it would be required.
Thanks. I don't have any further questions. Karen, you have a question that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, I would like to emphasize some things. So the customer needs only 30 to 45 minutes to use the digital blueprint to load up the UDP file and to see the added value in 30 or 45 minutes. This is really a creation of trust, yeah, in the system. And you can save here, Matthias, you can agree, 1 week of effort we normally need for this evaluation and analysis. And also I would like to emphasize, Matthias, it is only one push to create a transformation model. So in the past, we need for this activities excellence and a lot of time and a lot of effort. And you have to click one button and then you have the transformation model. And I would like to emphasize these two advantages for the customer. Would you like to add some stuff, Matthias, to these 2 points?
No.
From the customer point of view, it is really perfect for analysis.
I know when we earlier days, sometimes for such a project, we planned in the implementation phase. Depends also on the project, on the requirements, right? But between 2 and 4 weeks, easily, yeah, and sometimes even longer, yeah. So And especially if you think about migration cockpits in Greenfield, if you compare to that, you need application consultant, different application consultants configuring the objects, extending the table structures, filling the staging tables or whatsoever. And this is not needed at all here in our scenario, right? That's it's almost zero implementation effort, right? This is the key USP, I would say.
We have no
And you
additional
get it in a
platform costs.
consistent way, right? You don't need to take care of sequence and stuff. It will just come out of the box.
And we guarantee a consistent target system with no additional platform costs. So I think this is also the most important point for the customers, and the feedback is really great. So if you follow us on LinkedIn, you will see our next success story. Looking forward to this.
Perfect.
Me too.
Thank you so much for sharing this. Until we meet again in the next episode, signing off is Mukesh. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Mukesh.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.